Let's talk about a little bit about Iraq. You were injured there. You almost didn't survive. What was that recovery process like? Because, I mean, I've been in a lot of the hospitals where our wounded warriors are recovering, and, I mean, it is really, really tough.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. You're right, and you know, thank you for visiting a lot of those guys. I know it means a lot to them. And you know, I was injured in 2003, and I was 19 years old when I was burned inside of a Humvee that we ran over a landmine in Karbala, Iraq, and I was trapped inside the vehicle. And by the time I was pulled out, I had been burned over 40% of my body. And by the time I'd been pulled out, I was evacuated. Ended up in San Antonio, Texas, at a hospital called Brooke Army Medical Center, where I spent 2.5 years in and out of the hospital, and I've had 33 surgeries. And so I jokingly tell people, you know, now I was listed as one of the sexiest men alive, and I tell people when they ask me, did you ever think that would be possible? And I said, absolutely. 33 surgeries. I better be listed as one of the sexiest men alive. You know, so it was a long road, and it was a tough road, man. I mean, it was, you know, 19 years old to kind of look at your body and your face and say, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to move forward? And thinking that you're completely alone and no one in the world understands or can relate to you. But luckily, I was able to see a sign that I felt that I can use my second chance at life as an opportunity to help people with their first chance at life. And I wanted to really pass that on to people and help them in a powerful way. And luckily, I've been blessed, man, you know, that I've had the opportunity to do that.
It's tough, though, I think for a lot of wounded warriors who return. You know, it's one thing if you have an injury and you're wearing the uniform and people immediately see, okay, you're a veteran, I understand where that's from, but once you start wearing civilian clothes, do you find people look at you differently as somebody who's got an injury?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I learned early on from a young age from my mother, watching my mother, is that too often we look at, you know, the visual, and we live in being humans, naturally we go off of what we see. And a lot of times, you know, people can look at other troops and say, well, there's nothing wrong with them. And they look at me, and of course you understand and know that I went through something. You know, but that's why I'm very big on becoming an advocate to speak on behalf of those troops that aren't physically injured to the point where you can actually see those injuries. And for the men and women that have served, for the men and women that continue to serve, to the families, you know, that are trying to find ways to move on with their life and pick up all the pieces. I mean, it's important for me to continue to serve. I mean, it's hard for people to understand that when you hear a service member say, I want to go back and I want to be with my guys, and people say, well, why would he or she say that? And it's that need to feel that service. And for me, I wasn't given that option to continue to stay in the military. And quite honestly, I felt that if I couldn't stay in and do the job that I did before, I didn't want to stay in. So you can take away my camouflage uniform. You can take away my M16, which is my weapon. But I look at it now. My new weapon are my words, and my new uniform is my scars. And I'm going to continue to serve in a bigger way than I felt that I actually could do over in Iraq, and which is going to become even more needed now. Which I feel is going to become even more needed now that if the talks of pulling our guys out of Iraq and Afghanistan and bringing them home, now you're going to have to start seeing a lot more guys that are going to need that psychological aspect of recovery. And so it's important for me to be that voice, man.
Yeah, and it's important that we all support all those troops who are going to be returning home and hopefully returning home quickly.